everybody, my name is Margaret Bernard. Welcome to my channel. You're on BookTube. And today we've got a Wednesday wrap-up. It's got a theme. For our first Wednesday wrap-up of November, we're going through Blackoweenathon reads and other mysteries, because apparently mysteries are a fall go-to for me. So we're going to hear about some of those. I was going to say something at the beginning, which I'm not going to forget. Just marketing. Ta-da! This is the book I just published last week. If you don't know anything about it, check it out below. It's a short story collection of historical fantasy, and you might like it if you like the channel. So there we go. Now that that is out of the way, let's see. Wednesday wrap up. Yes, Blackoweenathon. In case you don't know what this is, I think I put Bree's information down below. Wow, it's been a busy day and my brain is a bit scrambled. Bree of the channel Locked Booktician is the person who organized this readathon. It's combining Halloween with crime writers of color in my mind. So we're reading mysteries, thrillers, horrors, all that kind of jazz in October. And she had a storygraph prompt set up. She had the Noir Apothecary set up, which is like gift baskets she was sending out, all stuff that she sourced and made herself. This was an act of love. So I I was very excited to participate and support her because she's doing such a fantastic job in the BookTube community. Hello! I've got my horror peeps here for the Blackoweenathon. That is such a surprise. Hey, RC. Hey, Anita. I think RC's recommending that I take some coffee in to help my scrambled brain. Hi, Cool Gamer. I don't have coffee. I don't even have tea right now. I've got green tea, so we'll do that. Yes. So what did I start with? You might like this title. It's called Dead Dead Girls by Nikesa Afia. And there we go. Historical mystery, obviously, from the swingin' Harlem Renaissance looking cover there. This is a relatively new author. She's been on Bree's channel. She's been interviewed on the BookTube. And I was very excited to read it. I found her second book first and bought that. So then I went back to borrow the first book from the library so that I wouldn't have spoilers. But then I watched the interview on Bree's channel and she spoiled the, cat emergency. There we go. She spoiled the villain. And so I went through reading it trying to ignore that, which was an interesting experience. I don't think I've ever done that before. And sort of was like, okay, so I knew it was coming. Could I tell before? Would I have known if she didn't say anything? And I think I would have. Because when I was reading this, the foreshadowing in the prologue to the story starting has a different point of view. And it was only like a page and a half. But I was like, this is that person. And we didn't find that out until like 3/4 of the way through. So I think I might have an issue with the reveals from this author. She seems great. The historical stuff, the dialogue, the relationships is more her strength. But yeah, if you don't like to know things right away and then wait to have them revealed for a long time, then this might not be for you. So what did I put in my reviews? I'm going to go ahead and go to Storygraph and give you the little blurb from the back. New historical mystery series set in 1920s Harlem featuring Louise Lloyd, a young Black woman caught up in a series of murders way too close to home. So basically the setup for book one is that Louise survived a kidnapping when she was a teenager and rescued other people. So she's got kind of a hero reputation in her neighborhood. She's trying to live down and just live her life. And then she sees another like rash of killings and gets in a fight with a cop and ends up promising to solve the case for them. So, okay, that's sort of a strange way to get your amateur detective in the action, but okay. And then in this one, Harlem Sunset, book 2, she's trying to get over what happened in the first book and gets wrapped right into being angry at the same detective and promising to solve the case. So I was like, well, okay. Like I said, I think the author's strengths are the relationships and the historical setting and, determined heroines. So that'll be good. That'll be good for some people. The second one I called definitely a hard-boiled historical detective novel. So if that is your style and you like the classics, then I would definitely recommend Nikki Saafia. Okay, so what else did I read for Blackoweenathon? I've got this one, which is another historical mystery, but by our friend Leslie Penelope of the channel L.Penelope. It's called The Monsters We Defy. It's a little chunkier than the other mysteries, and this is supernatural rather than straight mystery. So we have a main character who is a young Black woman in DC's Black district, U Street corridor. And I used to live right near there, so that was pretty cool. I, in particular, liked seeing the places where she was going and the stores that she was referencing and, like, the triangle meeting of streets that I had to get used to when I lived there, and really cool. So the setting was, good for me and maybe good for other people who've lived there or visited. The historical stuff was great. The supernatural stuff was cool. So she's someone who has made a deal with a spirit because she can commune with the spirit world and can't get out of it, basically. So she's helping people who have problems but never really satisfied. You find out a bit more about, I guess, Clara Johnson's past as we go through. You find out more about how she gets herself into trouble, which was pretty delicious. You got lots of like non-traditional relationships and friendships and like open-mindedness. So I really enjoyed this. Let me see if I put anything different in my review that might be more specific. No. So let me read a little bit more of the blurb. There is a powerful spirit offers her an opportunity to gain her freedom from this like bind that she's in, and she jumps at the chance. She has to steal a magical ring from the wealthiest woman in the district. So she brings in sort of the criminal underworld of DC at this point. She brings in the music scene. She brings in migration patterns, like just really, really solid historical enmeshment, if that's a word. So I really enjoyed this, and I think you should subscribe to her channel. She's awesome. She has a weekly podcast that comes out on Sunday on her YouTube channel, and it's all author stuff that is really helpful. So there we go. There's that. And those are the 3 books I read for Blackoweenathon. It was a busy month. Let's say that. But I did read some other mysteries that were let's see. 1 was on my ancient TBR. 2 I thought would be good to get ready for like Christmas recommendations. I don't know. I just needed to read them. And then 2 were rereads. So let's jump into those. Yeah, Anita, I think I don't think it's backstory or context for the first 2. I think it's pacing and reveals, for me at least. So again, could be good for other people. I find I'm on the low end of the scale for people who can tolerate not knowing, as in I never know it's going to happen. And a lot of people I talk to, especially writers, can predict what will happen. And I'm just like, wow, how did you know that? I have no idea. So if I could see from the first scene from the prologue who the villain was going to be and like could use that as a tool throughout all the action, it wasn't very mysterious for me. That means that it might be too easy for most readers, in my opinion, but maybe not. And a lot of other people could just enjoy it for the milieu and the sort of like self-questioning of the heroine and her relationship. it ends up with an interesting ending for the series, because if she's going to continue, she's going to be traveling. And so we might have another sleuth that's like going around the world solving crimes, which I am a fan of, as you will see. Hello, Miyuki TV. Thanks for the good vibes. Let's jump into the ancient TBR. This has been on my shelf for a long time. It's called The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss, and I think she's written 2 other books in this series. Basically, it's young women who are related to famous supernatural creatures of the fictional world. So we've got, let's see if I can remember this. We've got Mary Jekyll, who is Jekyll's daughter, Jekyll, however you want to say it. We've got someone with the last name of Hyde, who we find out a little bit about. We've got people who have been experimented on with the last names of Rappaccini, which doesn't reveal anything, Moreau, which does, and Frankenstein, which also does. So it's like someone went trawling through the early Gothic supernatural horror / literature and took those characters and sort of wove them together with like female relatives, daughters, creations, etc., to make an interesting YA sort of mystery. And here is my specific sort of comments. So I mean, it's a pretty cover, but I didn't get total YA vibes when I walked in, which I would definitely tell people this is a YA book. The main young women characters may be in their early 20s, and the book may be supernatural, but they act or are narrated very much like teenagers. So I appreciated the novelty of the group narration style. This is what I had. The conceit is that they're writing this book together, all the literary characters. And so different people, different characters jump in at times and say, well, I didn't say that, or how did you remember that? Or that's so typical of you. And it was funny at first, and then the novelty sort of wore off. So that type of narration is another thing that sort of points me to. It's very YA. It's kind of like putting a lot of text conversations in your script. So interesting, but big book. So it wore off. It's more of a monster adventure, I would say, than a mystery in tone and structure. So what do I mean by that? So when I think of a mystery, I think of like clue leading to clue, and conflict and solution until you are confronted with the villain and figure out what's going on. But this was more like a story, obviously narrated by all the people, so you know that they're safe at the end. And they're meeting each other. So this is like the first in a series. So they're all meeting and forming the girl gang. So again, it feels sort of like a TV show, like the Get Along Gang. I don't know if anyone in the world remembers the Get Along Gang now, but I used to watch that. So yeah, so structure and pacing are affected by that. I do like Sherlock Holmes stories, like spinoffs, as you'll see in a second. But this was a strange portrayal of Holmes. They kind of use him as like a love interest for these teenage girls. And I'm like, what? That has been done, and in a very different way, which I go along with. But in this one, it was just sort of weird. So yeah. So interesting choices. Fun characters with personality quirks and sort of witty repartee, ably plotted, but I am not the target audience of this caper. So again, glad I read it, glad I finished it. Now I can pass it on. I don't think I'll be continuing with Theodora Goss's series. So there we go. What do we have next? The Christmas ones. Why not? I remember like 2 months ago, I saw someone who was planning their end of the year cat emergency again. What is it? Are you okay? Okay. Planning their Christmas video series like in September, and I was like, Jesus, I'm looking at like 6 weeks out, and this person is gung ho. Then I thought, well, I never have Christmas recommendations because I don't read Christmas books. But when I went on my romance kick, I ended up getting a couple, and one of them's a mystery. So I thought, oh, well, now I have a trend. I have 2 Christmas books that I can recommend. So one is in a series that you've heard me talk about before. It's Stephanie Barron, who writes the Jane Austen mysteries. It's called Jane and the 12 Days of Christmas. This was the next in the series that I had to read that I've been saving up. And Jane Austen is a detective. In this one, it is a, what do they call it? A country house mystery. Everyone is at one house in the country, so you know one of those people has to be the killer. And you know, there's sort of a crush interest again in the series, and politics and lots of possibilities. And I love how she does inquests. I just love how she portrays the manners of a different time in the witty voice of Jane Austen. So yes, definitely appreciated that. If you're looking for a Christmas read that is a mystery, that is a romance that you can depend on, I would recommend Stephanie Barron. Hello, John. Welcome, welcome. There we go. Time out. The other Christmas book was a new author, Karen Swan, and the book is called The Christmas Secret. Like I said, I don't read Christmas novels, and I really liked this author's writing, so I looked up her other titles, and they're all Christmas themed. So I'm pretty hesitant. But the book was so good. It was like literature rather than romance. So anyway, to describe the book, it's about someone who has had a rocky beginning, but sort of pulled themselves up to build their own business and is like a superstar catering to the rich in terms of like business consulting. And she gets called in to rescue this terrible situation in Scotland on an island, on Islay, where I've been, and in the middle of winter before Christmas, and thinks she can pull it around. But it, of course, requires that she go back into her past and really dig deep, and she has to confront some stuff. The guy who is ruining the business has to confront some stuff, and they sort of traipse all over and ups and downs, and it is sizzling hot. So I thought it was really good, really good. Specific comments I left. Love the writing, love the elements of tension, the drama from the past that overshadows the present, then comes into rip-roaring focus at the climax. The only thing that would make me take off points for this book by Karen Swan is that this was written in 2017, and it could have managed to have more than rich, white, heterosexual characters. Just one, like anyone. I know it's in the UK. I know it's modern, but like there are people of different races and people of different backgrounds in this context. So one of the characters, the personal assistant for the main character, is ambiguous, and you could imagine her to be a person of color, but the stuff that is used to describe her leans to traditional markers. So it was just kind of like leaving a bad taste in my mouth after I finished. But I did have to stay up till 3 a.m. to finish this book. So what do you do, right? I guess you just ask the author to do better with representation. But yeah, so we'll see if I read another one of hers, Karen Swan. Or maybe she has another pen name that's not a Christmas one. But those would both be good reading recommendations if you're looking for something captivating. And then I have one more little section. Oh, Janet's here. Make friends with the like button. She's got it on mute as she's running a stream. Yeah, I put the bot in timeout, or whoever that is sending good vibes. I mean, yeah. Thank you, Shannon. Final section is the rereads, and it's a Sherlock Holmes series. So this is the first one I reread. It's like 6th or 7th in the series. It's by Laurie R. King, who is a white-haired school matron-looking author of the Bay Area in California. And the first book in the series is called The Beekeeper's Apprentice. I've recommended that one before. I have all of, I think, think all of the books in the series except like the last one. She's slowed down on this series to write other books, and she had a new one just come out recently that's in a different genre. So I think we all love her for this, but she's kind of like tired of it and wants to try new things, which as a writer, you're allowed to do. So this is why we're reading it. A Letter of Mary is one where it takes place mostly in London and Sussex. So Sussex is where our dear friend Scallydandling About the Books lives. So I recommended it to her. And Mary Russell, who's the sidekick and partner of Sherlock Holmes in this book, which is a big age gap, but is done the right way, in my opinion. She meets a friend who's come back from Palestine and gives her something and then is killed. And so they investigate and try to find out what she was killed for, who did it, and there's all these different possibilities. So really great. Mystery writer, recommend A Letter of Mary. And then the one directly after that was called The Moor, Laurie R. King's The Moor. And I forgot to put up the question. It's got two senses, actually. The Moor. Does it? No, it's just an off comment. Okay, scratch that. The Moor is in Devonshire. There's basically it's like a mesa, what we would in the US call a mesa, a big plateau levered up from the ground. And it's very swampy and boggy and dangerous, and weird things happen there in Devonshire. And so this is where actually, why am I blanking on the dog novel? The Hound of the Baskervilles was set. And in this book, they acknowledge that that was an earlier case of Sherlock Holmes, and now they're back to help out someone who lives by the moor and knows that something is wrong with it. There's a little bit of supernatural, but not much. It's mostly like uncanny happenings and such. And then they get to the bottom of the mystery, which is really fascinating. It brings in world characters and world trends. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to read mysteries because you remember what the solution was. And I didn't remember until late. Like, it's been 10 years since I've read these. So it was still a surprise, and it went over really well. So there we go. But what about you? Here's my question for today. Which, if any, genre do you tend to reread? Like, what is your comfort go-to if you're going to reread a book? Because I know mysteries. It's like, but you know what happened. So what's the suspense? Or if it's horror, like, why are you scared if you already know what happens? Maybe that's terror instead of horror. Anyway, give me your answers. Let me know what you think. Loving all these books. Well, good. Yeah, John, today I'm highlighting mysteries. So you got some Blackoweenathon mysteries written by crime writers of color. You got some Christmas books that were romance mystery. And then you got some rereads that are historical mystery again, because that's my favorite. Like I said in the description, I'm breaking up my wrap-ups so that they're themed and people can sort of gravitate more towards what they like. Next Wednesday wrap-up is not a Wednesday wrap-up. It's actually going to be the postponed Patreon book chat with Paula Butterfield. So we're going to talk about women and art and historical fiction. So stay tuned for that. We had some tech trouble last month, so this is the replacement, and we've got it all fixed. So we should be ready to go at our regular Wednesday at 11 a.m. time. The next Wednesday wrap-up will be of the Victober nonfiction and erotic literature. So stay tuned for that and how they go together. That should be an interesting one. And then the final Wednesday wrap-up on the 23rd is going to be highlighting short story collections, because guess who has a short story collection? And it'll be almost a 1 month mark for my book birthday at that point. So, oh dear. Oh, all right. So Anita says, I do reread a lot of mysteries. I like the familiarity of the characters. Yeah, especially with the series, right? Because you get to follow their adventures and they're always doing different things. That really works for me too. Elle thinks, hello. Joined late. I rarely reread, but I generally will reread fantasy series I enjoyed. Interesting, because those are the biggest investments. Those are the ones that are the most pages. So, well done. Well done for that. Yeah, do I reread fantasy? I guess I reread fantasy romance. Yes, because I reread Sunshine when I'm looking for a comfort read. Yeah. Shannon says, I'll reread things if I particularly liked the writing style and I want to study their syntax and structures. Oh, so we have a meta writer here whose X-ray vision is looking through. What is it? Instead of always be closing, you would say always be scanning. A writing teacher. And John says, I love to reread War and Peace. That is not one I have read, but that is, I think, a high page count as well. So good on you. Well, cool. So I've given the sort of next Wednesday's schedule, but I had links for tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. I have 2 more events for my book launch. So one of them is tomorrow at 5 p.m. my time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I am going to be featured on Mighty Blaze again, and Jenna is going to interview me. And I don't know how you can top Hank's interview. It was so much fun. But Jenna has a different style, so I'm sure she will ask me different questions, and we'll probably be laughing our tootsies off. So that should be fun. She's great. And then the final stop. Oh no, this isn't the final stop. What I grabbed instead was this week. So final thing for me this week is the first Friday productivity sprint. I know everyone's running nano sprints. So I don't know if I'll be on the list for that because this isn't a nano sprint. This is open to anyone who needs help with productivity. First Friday of November. And I'll be starting a little bit late at 9:30 to give Shannon extra room because she has so many people. But maybe it won't go as long as she thinks because the first one didn't, right? You were surprised. So anyway, it's just fun to work with your friends and look up and laugh and get distracted. And then everyone looks around and says, okay, ready to sprint, let's go. Let's go. So yeah, that should be fun. Thank you, John. Good night. All right. That's all I have. Once again, loved participating in Blackoweenathon. Love all the hard work and care and dedication that Bree puts into running that. It's not easy. And, she's doing a lot for her audience. So I definitely applaud that. And yeah, I hope people get into it. So that's all for today. Short and sweet with my themed wrap-ups on Wednesdays. Hope to see you tomorrow with Jenna on my channel. Thanks, everybody. Bye.